It's a matchup Tuesday on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. The Ohio State Buckeyes are just 4 short days away from the beginning of the first ever 12-team college football playoff, and they welcome the Tennessee Volunteers to town. We break down the Ohio State offense versus the Tennessee defense on this episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode, a playoff episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Anthony Moeglin alongside my partner and former Buckeye, Kevin Woidke, as we get you set on this matchup Tuesday, taking a look at the Ohio State offense versus the Tennessee defense. It's been a couple days. It's been a while since we've gotten to get back with you. So appreciate you all jumping in with us tonight. And if you do, hit that comment section as we go through this conversation. I know everyone's getting really excited for what is to come on Saturday night. So drop those comments in there. We'd love to include you in on tonight's conversation. But Kevin, as we get this conversation kicked off, man, it's finally here. Like, the wait is finally over. And this 12-team playoff, man, as the days get closer and closer to this kickoff at noon on Saturday, I just couldn't be more excited for what's in store for all of us.
No, I agree. Are we noon? I thought do we get moved?
We're not noon. We're at 8:00. The noon kickoff. The whole thing kicks off at noon.
Yep. I'm excited for a lot. Friday night will be a fun Indiana Notre Dame, the battle of who's more of a fraud, as people are calling it. Not me, of course. Never
not
me.
You.
No, not me. It's gonna be a fun weekend. I had high hopes for this. I think it's very evident they need to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. I
think they know that. But, it's the first time. It's going to be some jitters. There's going to be some stuff. So, I'm excited. There's some good matchups. There's some bad matchups. But who knows? I'd love to see some upsets too. I'd want to see a bigger upset. I don't want to see the 9 team beat the 8 team. No. I want to see like a really good team go down would be crazy to watch.
It's just going to be everywhere you look in this in this bracket. There's an intriguing matchup. Whether it is that Notre Dame Indiana game that kicks things off on Saturday night, whether it is SMU being the underdog against Penn State, and Penn State tweeted a video today. It looked like they had 5 or 6 inches of snow on the field, and then you go down to Texas. You got that game against with Clemson and Texas getting it going, and there's just so much to really look forward to in all these games. There's a ton of storylines to pick apart. And for us, for our game specifically, Kevin, the way that our season ended, the last, taste that we have in our mouth is a pretty nasty one. You think back, it's already been 3 weeks since that kind of that debacle that was Columbus when the Michigan Wolverines, or I guess the team up north, took down the Buckeyes, that 13-10 game where one of the biggest takeaways, Kev, from my perspective was that Ryan Day and Chip Kelly were trying to win a football game that wasn't required. It wasn't the ingredients. They were trying to win a game that felt like you needed to win in 2020 or 2021 or 2022, whereas they were trying to just force the run, and talked about that a number of times, where it was very obvious that Ohio State had the advantage on the perimeter in the passing game, and they just refused to kind of do it. So it's kind of our first talking point here on our ticker here. But I think the biggest question for me, Kev, is, can Ryan Day and can Chip Kelly adjust and win the game that's required on Saturday? Because frankly, this Tennessee team kind of is going to remind us, as we'll get into the breakdown a little bit later, it's going to remind a lot of folks of the Michigan team. They're built from the defensive line out. They're tough to run the football against, and it's going to take a really good offensive game plan and offensive execution for Ohio State to have a chance on Saturday.
Yeah, the only difference is they're not the 120th ranked pass defense in the country. That's my biggest takeaway from this is, it's built from the front out, but it's also really good on the back half too.
Mm-hmm.
And they can drop them. I mean, I think that it's up to Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to adjust. I think you also look a lot of guys in the eye and say, hey, you want to play at the next level? This is the playoff. And you look at some people and you say, you aren't playing up to what you're supposed to be. You haven't had the year anyone thought you would have had. You say that to Denzel Burke. You say that to JT. You say that to Sawyer. You say that to Tyleek. You say that to some of these defenders. Then you go to the offensive line and say, they're calling you soft. They say you can't do anything. This is your chance to prove them wrong. This is your chance against the big bad SEC to go out there, bully them like they did against Alabama in 2014. That's the only way to look at it. You have to go into this game, and you got to look at these guys pregame, and then again at halftime. You got to look at them and be like, hey, are you playing your absolute best? If not, we need it bad. And you got to it's got to be tough love, because these guys aren't reacting to whatever they're doing so far this year. JT's had a bad year in comparison to previous ones. Denzel Burke has had an atrocious year in comparison to previous ones. This is a freshman quarterback who's going to get rattled on the big stage. You have to make him pay for that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you talk about guys who, have to be challenged. And I think two of them are your head coach and your play caller. And I think that, frankly, they looked in the mirror. I said it after the game. There's got to be a lot of mirror looking, right? There's got to be a lot of guys who look in the mirror and say, was this my best effort? Did I do my best? And two of those guys who need to do that were your coaches. And I think Chip Kelly yesterday, or it may have been today, had a really interesting comment and just took total accountability. His quote when talking about kind of the failure that was that Michigan game, he said, we, as in the coaching staff, we didn't put our players in positions to make the plays that they needed to make. And that stands out to me a lot, because, this isn't coaches or this isn't a coaching staff that's ever going to point down at players and say, you failed. This has always been, and the good teams are always like that. That's rare in any case, but good teams especially, take accountability where accountability is needed. And for me, man, it is, I don't want to see this team major in trying to stuff the ball up the middle, right? We've seen it enough. We've seen, and now we've heard, and yes, you can challenge your guys all you want, but you have to put these guys into positions to succeed. And frankly, if I'm even the Ohio State offensive line, I'd be like, hey, let's try to get creative. Let's get out of running between the tackles here, because if we want to establish the run and do the things we're going to need to do to win a tough playoff game, we're going to need to not only execute, but we're going to need the plays that are coming in to put us in advantageous situations for this offense to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we need that. We need the offensive line. We do. And I as the week has gone on, I haven't gained much confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories that are coming out, things I'm hearing about the transfer portal and what went down, and it is disheartening. But hopefully, I truly do, because I really do like Coach Fry as a person. I think he's a good coach. I mean, it hasn't come to fruition. I don't know what's wrong. I mean, he's also been coaching long enough that you can't be a bad coach and be in it for this long. I just think that, with the way that the offensive line has been battered this year, you give them a little bit of a leash, but then you look at the recruiting side, which is half the job, and he hasn't really done that. He got the Armstrong brothers kept them in Ohio. He's done some good things, but he's also how do you – I don't understand how we lose out. The thing we obviously need next year is linemen. That should be our NIL's top thing to do, is to go get linemen. We have a secondary. We have safeties. We have linebackers. We have D-line. We think we have D-line, but we don't know yet. The obvious glaring holes in this team is offense and defensive line. And we couldn't go out and get that Nevada tackle. Throw him even money. We have money to burn, I think. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know nothing about our NIL, but there was something that came out that said Fry wanted to ask him if he would play guard. I'm like, I don't know if that's the correct. Maybe that's how he values maybe that's how he gauges if people are willing to compromise, and maybe that's how he chooses to recruit. That's his thing. But I don't know. It obviously rubbed the kid the wrong way. He left Ohio State out of its top three. Maybe we can go out and prove to him that we deserve to be in his top 3, but who knows if he's willing to come here or not. I think the only way you convince a lot of these kids to come back and a lot of these kids to come to Ohio State is have a deep playoff run to show them, hey, you're coming to a team that is there, that knows what they're doing, and they're going to be there for a long time.
No, I totally agree with that. And we could do a whole show on what's wrong with the transfer portal, just kind of as it is compared to the 12-team playoff, because we're seeing it now. You got 3 names that come to mind: Jaden Ballard, Aaron Noland, and Devin Brown. All 3 guys are going to leave Ohio State and transfer. And for them to get a head start on this transfer portal to find their new home. And frankly, I don't have any problem with the transfer portal being the way that it is. Like, hey, guys should be able to go and move and whatever. However, they have to leave the team. And like Jaden Ballard's not going to be a part of this playoff run. He's been at Ohio State for 4 years. Aaron Nolan has been at Ohio State for a year. That one's more of an obvious transfer. But like Devin Brown is going to stick with the team. And now everything and he's going to still play the backup role. But like now it's even weird on that side, because for him it sucks because he can't get a head start on the portal. But also you're hearing reports that like he's getting less of the reps, and like Julian Sayen's getting a lot of the backup reps. So let's just say, we have to hit the panic button and Will Howard goes down or is playing bad. Like, who goes in? It's like it's this weird thing, and it's all based on how this thing has been built. And like I said, that could be totally a song for another time. And appreciate everybody jumping in with us tonight. Jump into that comment section. We got a bunch of people in there having some good conversation. And yes, Frank, we coming from our Ohio State O-lineman, we 100% need an O-lineman. So let's stick on that topic here as we're kind of hearing some stuff coming out of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, talking about how they're going to retool this offensive line and then actually slide one of the young players on this Buckeye team, Ohioan himself, Luke Montgomery, into a situation where he may be rotating based on series, based on performance, and see how that goes. An interesting perspective, Kevin, that I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on if you've ever rotated as a lineman into a game and how that makes you feel sitting here 3 days away from the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, you saw it. I saw it with some of my teammates at the beginning of the season, and usually by the time the bye week hit, you finalized who was the correct person for that position. I guess why they're doing it is because we've had such a change so late in the season, and they're looking at it from that perspective. It can be beneficial and it can be detrimental, because you're looking at it like, oh my God, if I mess up one, you play so tight and wound. Oh my God, if I mess up once, it's over. They're going to pull me type thing, which I've been there. And then the other thing is, the added pressure. It's kind of like the old adage, pressure makes Duster diamonds. I think I might be completely botching that. I think
you made that one up. Pressure makes diamonds or burst pipes. I don't know where the dust comes into play, but
it's like something about too much pressure. I don't know, but I might be right on that. Actually, you might be wrong, quarterback. No, but it's just interesting dynamic. I'm surprised we didn't see Luke Montgomery earlier. Obviously, that's internal stuff. They saw something, or he wasn't there yet. But it's good to see that he's coming on, because we're going to need him next year. If they're willing to rotate him into this game, it's obvious that he's playing well enough that they're willing to give him a chance. I think that it'll be nice to see him kind of get his feet under him and go, and be ready for next year. And like similarly to them putting Julian Sayen there as the backup quarterback for a lot of these reps that Woody's talking about, that's them preparing for next year. Devin Brown doesn't need practice reps anymore to be our backup quarterback, to be our in case emergency. He knows the offense. He knows what he's doing. He'll get those 3 reps. He'll get the throws he needs to get. He'll get all that. He won't, like Julian Sayen needs the 2s. He needs the reps as a 2-deep quarterback. He needs those receivers to get his timing down. He needs all that. And the quicker we can get that under our belt, the better. And I think that's why you're seeing it. I don't want people to overreact too quickly, because it happens. And that's what the reality of the situation is. People that were our 2-deep quarterback towards the end of the year weren't getting 2 reps because they were a redshirt senior or a true senior, and they weren't going to be seeing the field. Like Chris Chuganoff was our backup quarterback and that was my senior year. We were both seniors. We were both on our way out. And towards the end of the year, who was it? Oh God, I can't even think. I think they transferred. Either way, they were seeing a lot more 2 reps than Chugs was, because they were trying to get them ready. And that's what I think they're trying to do with Luke. But I think you're seeing him, if he's playing well enough and they're doing that, then great. Hopefully it works out. But it's just going to be interesting to see how they choose to manage this and how they choose to utilize it.
Yeah, and also to that point, it's like, all right, to say what I said, it's like, all right, you get to the backup situation, and this road that Ohio State's going to have to go on, this isn't, hey, Cardale Jones, go win us 2 football games and go pull a rabbit out of your hat for 2 football games. Like, you're going to have to string wins together against Tennessee. You'd have to beat Tennessee. You'd have to beat Oregon. Then you'd probably have to beat some combination of Arizona State, Clemson, or Texas, most likely Texas. And then whatever comes out of the other side of the bracket, potentially Georgia. So, that is 4 straight games where, yeah, you could get lucky one of those times. You could pull some magic out once or twice, but it'd be really hard to take for a backup to go on a 4-game stretch like that. So you make a really solid point in saying that, hey, this is all about prep. But I'll certainly be keeping my eye on that matchup and that rotation. I've never really from my untrained lineman eye, I've never really seen that. It's a lot of times, that very much is like the quarterback position, where you can get into a rhythm of a football game, get into a rhythm of your calls and what you're seeing, and really get into that communication rhythm with some of those guys up front.
Yeah, no one really notices a lineman when they do that. The story of if you're a lineman that doesn't get noticed, you're doing your job right. That's usually how it goes. But it's interesting how they choose to do it. I think you're probably going to see a majority of Austin with a couple others rotating in. But it'll be interesting, I think, just how they choose to utilize it, how they choose to use it, maybe even use it in like a big package, like bring in 2 guards, take out your tight end, bring in 2 guards, and then have 3 guards and 2 tackles and just run.
Yeah. It's gonna be whatever they figure out and whatever they decide to do will certainly be interesting. But it's good to know that it's a concern on their minds and figuring out, hey, how can we bolster our guys up front, because we're all here in the conversation, right? Ohio State's offensive line is going to be under attack on Saturday, and they got to do what they can to kind of mitigate it. And yes, let's go, bobblehead guru. Appreciate you jumping in. Do as he did. Hit that like button. Always love you guys jumping in and hanging out with us tonight. So, Kevin, more on the fun side of things. Let's talk about this environment, all right? Because everyone's pretty up in arms right now. Or I guess up in arms isn't the right word, but really talking about how the weather's going to play a factor. It looks like during the day on Saturday, it's going to be a high. What I saw was a high of 26. Now, that was when the sun was up. They're expecting about 16, 17 degrees come kickoff time in Columbus in the Horseshoe. However, it's going to be electric, man. Like, this stadium we finally get a night game. I pulled a cut up of this. I mean, this right here is a little blurry because I just screenshotted it. But are you kidding me? If you show this to Fox right now, I'd be like, they're probably kicking themselves. Like, man, we made the Buckeyes play at noon every freaking Saturday, but finally we get an 8:00 game. We get it in the cold. What are your thoughts on the environment as a whole and how it's going to play a factor on Saturday night?
I'm disappointed. I think that if you're going to structure this like the committee did, where you get a home game, if you play better, you should be able to control your own environment. Mm-hmm. Reports are that the CFP gets to control the music, the script, what happens.
Oh,
there's going to be a Tennessee pyro and a Tennessee pump up video before the game, according to what I'm hearing. And I think that's very, very off-putting. I think it kind of defeats the purpose of having a home game. Yeah. The only thing that's home about it is because OSU didn't dictate how the tickets were sold. Is taken up by the CFP. So is this really a home game? I mean, you saw a ton of these bots, automated bots. That's a problem. There goes all my screens. You saw all these automated bots buy up all the tickets for resells. Like, I am very frustrated. I'm hoping the committee realizes what they're doing wrong here, because what's the point in home field advantage? I mean, half the kids here are from the South anyway. It's not like this is home for them. Like, it is home, but it isn't. You get to sleep in your normal thing for a home game. You get to be in your own locker room, which is huge. But, like, not having hell's bells on third down, I don't know if you'll see that light show because it's up to the CFP. I don't know if it'll be all red or not. I don't like the red pants, but that's all.
Okay. Let's hang on that for just a second, because I think I'm normally big on alternate jerseys if they're cool. I think these are cool. This is an iconic football game, potentially, and truthfully, an iconic uniform matchup between Tennessee and Ohio State. And I hate that we're going scarlet on scarlet. I hate it so much.
Yeah. I mean, my brother talked about it. I think the cleanest Ohio State jerseys, if you want to get special with it, and maybe they're waiting to use them, I don't know, but the ones they wore in 2014 with the big band on the shoulder, we wore them again in the national champ or in the Fiesta Bowl my senior year, where it had the black numbers on top with the big thing. I think that's our best jersey. And then you have the gray pants. I mean, these are two iconic college jerseys in uniforms. And we're gonna go candy ass and wear the all reds. Like, I mean, it does. Maybe it was a team decision. Maybe it was an equipment decision. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know why we're doing it. I don't know if the CFP asked us to do it. If it's like, oh, we're supposed to wear alternates to showcase something. Who knows? But I'm not the biggest fan of the red on red with the silver helmets.
Dude, that is so funny, because I thought when my initial reaction was I hate them, I thought I was like old man yelling at clouds. Like, all right, this is me. This is a sign that I'm getting too old and I'm growing up. But okay, good to know that we're on I'm on the same path as you. But going back a step, I didn't know that the college football playoff was basically going to have a neutral person or a neutral, controlling of the environment. That does really suck and really takes the like just exactly what you said, takes the home field advantage totally out of it. And that is incredibly disappointing. And we'll see obviously how that all shakes out. Regardless of that, it will be an 8:00 game in the shoe. And it will be a lot of fun. It'd be two great fan bases. I know that place is going to be packed out to the brim. So that was one of the big bummers too, was Tennessee getting their hands on all the tickets. But regardless, it's in Columbus, and it should be a rowdy environment. All right, Kev, here we go. Now let's get down into some brass tacks here. This Tennessee team is good, man. This is a good team. If they had an offense like they've had in the past 5 years, it feels like their offense struck in the first 4 years of the 2020s, and now their defense is coming around. Their offense is going to hang back a little bit. But tonight we talk defense, and this defense is one of the best in the country.
They are. I mean, who's their Tim Banks is a defensive coordinator. I mean, he's doing well. He's leading them. They're number 4 overall in the country defense. They've given up 18 touchdowns on defense. They've given up 20 total as a team. That could be good for Ohio State. They're giving up about 278 yards per game. Most of they're worse in the pass than they are in the run. We talked about that, but they're not terrible in the pass. They've given up half their touchdowns in the passing game. They're ranked number 17 with just over 178 yards per game in the pass. And then in the rush, they're number 8. They're giving up 9 touchdowns, about 2.8 yards per rush, and about 99 yards per game in the rush. This is a very, very good defense. They've been talking about it all year. This, like you said, it just flipped. It was their offense, and it was just, can we score more points than the other team? Now their defense is holding them up. I mean, they're holding them to how many points per game? Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I think it's scoring defense. They're holding their teams to an average of 13.9 points per game. I mean, they've given up only 167 points this season. It's amazing that they have, played the season they have with the record they have with such a good defense.
Yeah, no, it truly is. This could be a really, really good football team if their offense kind of came up to par. Now, what I would say is this. A lot of those numbers, they're not inflated or weighted based on some of their competition, right? You look back to that Kent State game, they won like 71-0, and they had a couple of those cupcakes scheduled in. The one game to really kind of focus on is the Georgia game, all right? And in that Georgia game, the one area that Georgia got after him was in the pass game. Carson Beck threw for over 330 yards. They were moving the ball up the field, and they scored. They scored kind of at will, and Georgia really did control the tempo of that football game. So I think that if there is one area to attack, it is through the air, because Kev, that front line is pretty nasty. They have 29 sacks on the year, and in comparison, and I always love comparing it to Ohio State's number. Ohio State has 35 sacks on the year, so it's a very similar front, and they're led by James Pierce Jr., who has 7.5 sacks. He's a big dude, 6'5", 243. He's kind of your prototypical edge pass rusher. Going to be a handful for Ohio State on Saturday.
Yeah, especially with our two tackles. I mean, Josh has been there for a couple of years now, but having Donovan out there against him, he's a big body. He's really good. He's their best player. I forget what number he wears. He wears number 27. That's right. It's really odd. He's a tall guy, but he's a little bit leaner. He's about 243, so he's going to be a speed guy. I think you'll see it similar to that Penn State edge rusher in terms of what to expect in terms of body size. But he gets after it. I mean, there's no way around it. He gets after it, and then their starting linebacker, he doesn't have any sacks, but man, does he have tackles. I mean, Arion Carter is 65 total tackles with a PBU, an interception. I mean, he's playing very well they spread out their tackles pretty evenly, but he's the head and shoulders above everybody else. And he's someone else that's going to be, if you can get past James Pierce at the first level, he's going to be waiting for you right there at the second.
Yeah, and like we said, they want to try, or the way to attack this Tennessee defense is through the air, but they're very opportunistic in the air. They have 11 interceptions on the year, a good number to compare to Ohio State's 9. So just a very similar secondary. And on the back end, they got two guys who are both ball hawks, Will Brooks and Jermon McCoy. Both have 3 and 4 interceptions respectively. So that's not one that you can take lightly. Yes, we're going to say that Ohio State can drop it back and throw it, but Tennessee can get after the quarterback. And the last we saw from Will Howard, he threw 2 really, really bad interceptions, and you could very visibly see his coach and play caller lose confidence in him when the chips were down. So going to be really interesting to see how Ohio State looks to attack Tennessee and find ways to score, because it's going to be really important. So on that point, Kev, when you're looking at this football game, when Ohio State has the football, what are a couple keys that you're going to be looking out for that will propel Ohio State to victory?
I mean, you touched on it, passing the ball. I want to get Jeremiah Smith and Emeka in the game as early as possible so that they start to focus on them. I want them to be the center of attention with the secondary, and then have Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis torch them when they get them in single coverage. I think that's where you win this game. I think G. Scott having 6 touchdowns would also win this game. But I think you also got to isolate these guys in the pass game. You got to get Quinshawn, you got to get Travion involved in some dump off passes, because those guys that open, it's a lot easier for a linebacker to bring them down than it is for a DB or safety. I'll tell you that much. I mean, it's even hard for linebackers to bring down Travion, but that if we could get them involved and maybe some quick screens to slow down this rush would be huge. I think you'll see some of that, because obviously this rush is going to be pretty apparent quickly. I also think you could see, some quick slants to force those linebackers into some stuff, because a majority of those interceptions are at Will Brooks and Jermon McCoy are 7 of the 11, right? I think they're 7 of 9. 7 of the 9, or is it 11?
7 of the 11. Yeah, 7 of the 11.
7 of the 11. And some of those 11 are like what seems to be backup players that took an INT in some garbage time. One of the INTs is Andre Turrentine, and that's a former Ohio State guy. I think focusing on some of these linebackers, making these linebackers be athletic is going to be a great way to optimize our offense.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. Make them play in space and do so against some of the best athletes in the country. For me, the one key I have, we talked about it all. We talked about the offensive line. We talked about the receivers, the quarterback, all of it. I want to see Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have the ability to adjust, right? If the game that you go into calling is not working, right? You take a game plan in that's not working. You have to snap out of it because you're out of lifelines. If you lose this game, the season's over. And we're not going to speculate on this program, but the season's over. We'll end it there because it's going to be really important for those guys to adjust, and that may be called upon and maybe called for, and maybe not. Maybe what their game plan is. Maybe they come into it and Ohio State's ripping from the start, but in the event that they do need to adjust, they have to do it quickly and they have to do it effectively. So really, really excited to see how not only that storyline, but all these storylines kind of shake out. Kevin, one of your favorite things to do every week is talk about some Ohio guys that are on each roster. And this one, it's got a couple, right? You said 4 or 5 guys on the Tennessee roster from the great state of Ohio.
Absolutely. We obviously touched on, he's from Nashville, but he played at Ohio State last year, Andre Turrentine. And then you got, Jackson Locke. He's a redshirt junior wide receiver from Granville, Ohio, went to Newark High School. Some of those people that were like myself and didn't get into main campus know exactly where Newark is. And then we got a freshman O-lineman from Archbishop Hoban. His name is Will Satterwhite. I coached against him a couple times. He's a pretty talented player. You hate to see those kind of guys leave Ohio.
Those guys should be in Columbus. Those type of guys should be in Columbus.
And then the last one would be a tight end, Titus Rohr, redshirt sophomore from Bryan, Ohio.
No idea.
Don't know what that is, but we're going to keep pushing. And it's funny how many Ohio kids, you see Ohio kids all over the country. This is a great example of it. I mean, they got the Cali, they got the Texas, but, that second tier, I consider it first tier, but a lot of people call it the second tier of football, high school football. Ohio reigns dominant over that. You see kids going all over the place from Ohio. I think one of Alabama's recruits this year's edge rusher from Ohio. So he's from Cincy, I think. But that's just that's what happens, and it's tough to see these kids go. This tight end is 6'7", 261. I'd throw 40 pounds on that kid and make him a tackle tomorrow.
There we go.
But that's kind of what. That's the Ohio rundown.
There it is. The Ohio rundown. And for those who don't normally jump in with us, we appreciate you being here. But Kevin does get a G Scott shout out every week or every episode. So we got the G Scott shout out today. And we're certainly excited for this week because it's going to be really exciting. And obviously we're fired up with you. And we're going to have content all throughout the week. So we'll have a video posting tomorrow. And then Kevin and I will be back with you on Thursday night doing the flip side. We're going to take a look at the Tennessee offense, which is certainly a unique offense versus the Ohio State defense, and what the Buckeyes need to do on the defensive side of the ball to keep that volunteer offense kind of held down. And then Saturday, of course, we'll be with you all day. We'll have shows in the morning. We'll have a pregame show. We'll have a postgame show. We'll have press conferences all throughout the game, whether win or loss, we'll be with you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button. Our team's also got you covered on our website, si.com/college/Ohio State. We're filled with content this week because the eyes of the sports world are on college football. And come Saturday night at 8 o'clock, we'll be on the Ohio Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. So we're excited for all of it. We appreciate you jumping in and hanging out with us. For my partner, Kevin Woidke, I'm Anthony Moeglin. Until next time, thanks for hanging out with us on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.